the room that I'm doing on
Yeah.
Clubhouse. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Proverbial Masterminds. I'm Dr. Sherry.
And I'm Erin, and we are live. Hello, hello. For episode 13,
Nuts
Heart Flow. We're flowing
with the heart flow.
with the heart flow. Like, right? Like things, our heart valves flow. Blood flows in and blood flows out. And you got
Yes.
to have good going in so you can have good
Yeah.
coming out. And yeah, we're unpacking.
Otherwise you have to have like a triple bypass or something.
That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're unpacking. This is us. We know, we come to you every single week. We're talking about minding the master's wisdom in the book of
Yeah.
Proverbs. And that's why we call ourselves the proverbial masterminds, because we are
Mhm.
not masters.
No, we are not.
We are not. But
We're
we've been in
servants.
chapter 4 the last few weeks and
Yeah, and we're
like
finishing it today.
finishing it up. And this last section
So
is,
good.
all about heart flow. So go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah. Well,
Because you have like, I love when you start to unpack what you find and then I find and then
okay. Well,
good.
all right. Well, so I'm just thinking, how many times have you gone to get wisdom from somebody and they've said, "Well, what is your heart telling you?"
Oh yeah.
Right?
Right.
What is your heart telling you? Follow your heart and you'll always I don't know what the rest is. Land on your feet. I don't
I
know.
think it's like it's in so many movies.
Oh my gosh, it's in everything. I was like looking up memes today,
Yeah.
and it's like one of them, this is not okay, so I have to read this.
Read
And
it.
I'm not one of those people, by the way, people. There did you know there are whole like careers dedicated to talking about what other people are doing wrong?
No. Really?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, don't roam around on YouTube too much because you'll find a whole bunch of people, and all they do is talk about why this belief is wrong or why doing this is wrong. Like, I don't want to be that person. So,
No.
but I preface this with that. So this one says, hang on. Follow your heart. It knows the way.
Mm,
Hmm. That's not in the Bible. In
mm-mm.
fact, In fact, let's start with 2 verses and then we'll just go from there, okay? I'm gonna tell y'all a little bit of truth about our hearts,
Yes, please,
our
because it
famous
is
hearts that know the
deceiving.
way. Yes. So, okay. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 says this, "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." Okay. So, keep your heart with I'm not even going to break that down. Just keep your
Hold.
heart, guard it, right? Defend it.
Sorry.
It's actually defend it and free it.
Mm.
So defend it from harm, from stuff that is not God's wisdom, and free it to be able to flow out in the way that is God's wisdom. So keep your heart with all diligence because out of it spring all the issues of life. That means everything in your life, relationships, finances, decisions, health, mental health, ev- everything
All of it.
flows from our heart flow. Oh, goodness. Why is that important then for us to guard our hearts? Well, let's take a little journey on back here to the Old Testament.
This is why I love doing this with you, because like we go different ways in our depth. I love it.
We do. I love it too. Okay, but see, okay, I need to memorize the song for the books in order. Um
I
I
don't
have
know
the
that.
so oh, I do for New Testament. I'll teach it to you sometime. It's totally fun. So that's how I remember like where things are, but I know most of Old Testament, but as it gets to the end, I get kind of
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know where
Like
anything is.
there's books
And
in the New Testament, like Philemon, that I'm like, is that in the Old Testament? I don't know. Yeah.
right.
Anyway.
So okay, I'm going back to the book of Jeremiah. For those of you who are like have your Bibles with you, this is super fun. You could follow along if you want to. So Jeremiah chapter 17 verses 9 and 10.
Go in there.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. The heart is desperately wicked.
Mm.
I just want you to think about the ramifications of that when we say and believe things like, follow your heart. So that's where I'm starting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, right? Because there's so much noise around it. And it's so easy to take words out of context, to cherry pick a phrase and put it on a plaque and put it on a wall and put it on a t-shirt and whatever. So then we constantly hear these things and we think, oh, well, then that must be true.
Yeah.
And I think what I mean, excuse me, what I mean when I say it's hard is that there's something stuck in my throat. It's hard to tune that out, and it's hard to know, like, what's the difference, and it's hard to follow. Like, that's why being a Christian is not easy.
Well,
Right?
okay. Yes and no. No, it's not easy, because easy in terms of knowing what to do and how to do it. I think that part's easy.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we have to give stuff up, our will, right?
Right.
The wickedness of our heart we have to give up, and that's not always fun to
Mm-mm.
have that taken from us. But when I look at let's go back to Proverbs here. Why the heart is so important. I can't even find it now. So basically, keep your heart with all diligence. When I did a study on this the other day, I looked that word up, keep. Like, what does that mean? Like, to keep my heart? Like, I don't even get that. What does that mean? Well, it means to defend it and free it. To defend it against anything, like we do with our physical hearts.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Eat your oatmeal, eat your whatever, eat your omega-3 fatty acids. That all makes sense, right? Now, not all of us do that, right? Some of us are still on the McDonald's train, whatever. Okay. But we know what to do. It's the same thing with God's wisdom. There's all you have to do is ask for it. That's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
all
it.
you have to do is ask for it. You don't have to follow a fancy diet. You just don't. You consume one thing. You consume the source of God's word and of God's wisdom, which is the word, which is the Bible. And then that's how you guard your heart. That's how you know how to filter out the noise. So I think it can be easy, but here's a little trick that not trick. This is like a test to me, and I fail it all the time. So in the book of Luke, one of the gospels, Jesus, when he was speaking to the people, said, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. You know how many times I say stuff out of my mouth that I'm like, oh, that's in my heart? I'm like, oh, I make myself a little sick sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And that means out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Like, we can also have thoughts, but we also have an opportunity from thought to mouth, right? So I'm still learning and growing in that area. But what's beautiful about that is it's not discouraging, like, oh man, I'm just not worthy, something's wrong with me. No, that's what's happening is I'm defending and I'm freeing my heart because I've been consuming wisdom. God brings to mind, oh, that was one of those things that should not be there, right? It's just like going back to verse number 18 that says the path of the just is like the shining sun that shines ever brighter into the perfect day. Like, when you're walking in wisdom, light will fall into your
Yes.
darkest of places, into the darkest places of your heart. And don't be afraid by that. Like, celebrate that and say, thank you, Lord, for showing me that. Because
Yes.
I needed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because He knows the heart. He knows us. He knows
Mhm.
those deep, dark
Mhm.
crevices.
Mhm.
And I think it can be really scary when the light is shown on, some of our, and let's face it, we're all imperfect, those things. But there is so much joy that can come from that, because
Mhm.
in bringing light to that darkness, it's like bubbling up the impurities to make pure gold. He wants those things out so that our entire heart is devoted to him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that when he puts, as it says in Psalm, I think 37:4, when he puts desires in our heart, it's an open, clean space for him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nothing's gonna, nothing is going to take up all of the room
Yeah.
that he can't, drop his desires in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch my live that I did on my personal Facebook page the other day?
I did not. I
Okay.
apologize.
No, no, it's okay. I tagged you because I wanted you to watch it, not necessarily before this, but talking about, your whole heart and guarding it and keeping it. So what I talked about was how we have we have a desire to have a whole heart, right?
Mm,
A whole heart, a heart that's undivided. So if we're talking
yes.
about, keeping your heart with all diligence, that means making sure that it's not divided. And what I talked about was how, um, let's see, what verse is it? 21, 4:21 of Proverbs. It says, basically keep wisdom in the midst of your
Mm,
heart. So the midst is the very center. And in fact, the Hebrew root of that explains it as it is the place, it is the center place. Essentially, it's the fault line. It's the center place where you are likely to be divided.
mm,
It's the thing
mm.
that holds it together, your heart. Okay. And so I described it like this, like your brain is held together inside. There are two hemispheres, left and right. It's held together by a bundle of neural fibers called the corpus callosum. That allows the left side to talk with the right side, and that allows us to have mobility, talk, hear, all of that. If
Right.
that was severed, we would be broken. In fact, I have a cousin whose son was born without one, and
Wow.
he is he's beautifully perfect to me, but his body is broken.
Right.
He
Right.
he cannot move his body. His mind cannot communicate with his body. It's broken. And
Yeah.
so if our hearts are broken and we break our own hearts by not keeping wisdom at that, what would that be, like the fulcrum, the center point?
Yeah.
um
It's like like a
it's
cornerstone, but it's,
but not, because it's
yeah.
in the very, it's like the center of the earth is what keeps us keeps the earth spinning, right?
It's like the nucleus of a cell where
Yes.
everything is. Yes.
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 So if we aren't diligent, that means practice, practice, practice daily, all the time, right? If we're not diligent, then our hearts can break. They won't be whole. And when our hearts are broken, we operate out of desperation,
Yes.
not out of direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then we make horrible decisions. And going back to verse 23, for out of your heart spring all the issues of life. And so
Hmm.
if we're operating from a fractured heart, then we are going to make horrible choices that
Yes.
impact us devastatingly in some
Yeah.
cases. Um, but if we keep our hearts whole, we are less likely to make
Mm,
those types of decisions if we are diligent to keep them.
yes. The other thing that I love so much about the Lord is, if you're listening to this today and you're saying, well, I don't know Jesus. I don't have that relationship or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, he can fix that. He can heal that,
Yeah.
and those of us who do know him, who are in relatively good practice of being in the word, listen, we have our days, our minutes, our hours that we're not, fully there, that we've got some brokenness, right, in our
Yeah.
heart. But he's always welcomes us back,
Mhm. Mhm.
always wants to heal us, is
Mhm.
always desiring that relationship with us.
Mhm.
So all is not lost
Yeah.
if that's where you are.
Well, so yes, nothing is lost. In fact, Jesus never leaves.
That's right.
Jesus never leaves. Jesus is the brokenness whisperer.
Mm.
He thrives in brokenness.
Yes.
He
Yes.
he he heals it. And so don't let the lie that I'm broken or I can't fix this part of my heart or this part of my life. That's where Jesus wants to be.
Exactly.
From him. Just expose it.
Yeah.
Say, come on in. Here's my mess. Don't mind my mess. Clean it up
Right.
for me.
Right. That's it. And out of the mess is his message. And out of the mess, our mess is where his miracles happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to read the rest of that last
Yeah.
section so that we can get to the verse that we were at today, but just so that you can have we can have an understanding of the context of this. So I'm reading Proverbs chapter 4, verses 23 to 27. It says, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil.
Mm.
I mean, so basically, he says, keep your heart with all diligence. And then he tells you how to do that. Put away from you a deceitful mouth and perverse lips. By the way, perverse lips doesn't mean like you're talking about like porn or sex. That's not what that means.
No, no.
It means it is against the truth. It is
Yeah.
wicked, right? It is not, it is, you're using the wisdom of the world as opposed to God's wisdom, right? So
Yes.
put that
Yes.
away from, don't speak that, don't share that with anybody. And well, that's a topic for another day because that's I don't want to go down that rabbit trail. Keep your eyes straight ahead and keep your eyelids looking straight forward. Friends, my heart breaks for us when we look back. When we look back, there's essentially 4 directions you can look, right? You can look in front of you. You can look behind you. You can look, well, maybe 6 up and down, but we're walking here, okay?
Right.
So you can look in front of you. You can look behind you and you can look to the side of you. And so the wisdom here to me, and I'd be interested to hear your take, but the wisdom here to me that, let your eyes look straight ahead and your eyelids look right before you. Let me just finish this real quick so that I can share my visual. Ponder the path of your feet. So ponder, it was interesting. It wasn't just like, think about it. Think about it. No, the Hebrew word is make it even. Prepare. Yeah. So I got this picture in my head of, those like, when they're paving a road and those big cylindrical,
That's rolling it.
rolls it flattens it out. Like that's what this is saying. And why? So basically we need to have with us something that's going to help us to flatten out the stuff that shouldn't be in our path, because if we aren't diligent to do that, we can trip and fall, right? So ponder the path of your feet and let all your ways be established, right? So if you ponder, if you prepare, if you make it even, then you'll be firm. And then do not turn to the right or the left. So let me get back to this visual. If I'm spending time in the past, I'm spending time in regret, and I have a higher likelihood of being depressed because I cannot possibly look back and forward to the hope that's set before me at the same time. Can't do it.
Yes, correct.
And if I'm moving forward and I say, I'm walking towards you, Lord, but then I take my eye off of him and I look over here at that bright, shiny thing. Well, man, everybody's doing it this way. There's a shortcut I could take, or, that person has it all together. They've figured it out. They're telling me how I can scale my business to billions of dollars. So that's got to be the way. It's got to be the answer, right? Keep your foot to the path. Don't turn to the left or to the right. You don't have to walk around with blinders on. It's just saying, see it and leave it. If it's not of God's wisdom, see it, leave it, pass it by.
Yeah.
And keep your foot straight. That's how you keep your heart.
Yeah. It's always fascinating to me how all of these things come together, because this morning on my blog, I posted this, which is the beginning of chapter 1 of my book, which is from the hymn Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus by Helen Howarth Lemmel, which says, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of the earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. And what I talked about this morning was fix your gaze. Like, where's your gaze fixed?
I'm going to have to go watch that.
And that was coming to me as I was in my prayer journal this morning and writing, like, prayer fixes everything. And I don't mean like it fixes it, it's permanent, it's perfect. But in my previous life, in my network marketing business, we used to say activity fixes everything. You just have to be in more activity.
Right.
But really, prayer fixes everything if you're pursuing success God's way. And this speaks to it. God doesn't want our head on a swivel. He knows we're easily distracted. He knows this, right? That's why throughout the Bible, here in Joshua, in many other places, it tells us not to look to the left or to the right.
Yeah.
Right. So where is our gaze fixed? Where are we looking? Where are we focused?
Right.
And I think this morning I talked about not looking backwards, and continuing to look forward and not looking left and right. And it's funny because I read this, because I read a few verses at a time, and then I go back and really unpack them. So it's, of course, today would be the day that we finish on these. And in thinking about, I love that visual of, that machine that's smoothing out the road ahead of us.
Yes.
And that you mentioned that your steps will be, or your path will be established, not just that there is a path, but that you're firmly on that path.
Right. Yeah. So in, here's the other thing, just a little practical piece. It's not, when people say things, when we say things like in the word, this is all it means. It means to read the Bible. That's okay. So the Bible is referred to by believers as the word of God. Okay. So God's words to us, and we want to be in it. We want to hear it. We want to listen to it, but really practically it just means read the Bible. Okay. Read the Bible. And here's why I highlighted that, Aaron, because Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12 tells us that the word, okay, so the Bible is a discerner of the heart's intents. So if you want to know, well, how do I know? Is this coming from me or is this coming from God? Like, how do I know? Is this my heart? Is this God's heart? Is my heart grounded in wisdom? You'll know that the more you read the Bible.
Yes.
Because, so also in Psalm 86, 86:11, it says, teach me your ways, right? So that basically I will walk in them. And then it says this, unite my heart to fear your name. So God knows, okay, these are people who believe in God and trust in God. And they were saying, unite my heart, right? Paul talked about, the Apostle Paul in the New Testament talked about doing this and not wanting to do this. And why do I do the thing I don't want to do? And God knows that we have a propensity to wonder. He knows that we have a propensity to division. So we need to pursue, because we are still in fleshly bodies and we will never be perfect until we're transformed.
That's right.
We need that center. We need that foundation to keep going back to. And it's not good enough, just like it's not good enough to go to the gym. You're not one day and lose 20 pounds. It doesn't work that way. You have to make it a daily practice, practice. If you want to change your heart, if you want to guard your heart, if you want to protect it, defend it, and free it to flow out to serve others, you have to make that is not optional.
Right.
Reading the Bible is not optional if your pursuit is God's wholeness of heart for you.
Right. Yeah. And you just talked about, what can flow out when we're doing that to serve others and to make kingdom impact. And the flow in is what we're feeding it, which is
Mm.
being in his word daily, reading the Bible daily, and not just reading, but even if it's just one verse,
Mhm.
praying over it and asking for understanding.
Mhm.
And that's how we let the best things flow in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
good.
same as food, right? What we
Right.
consume shows
Right.
up.
Yeah.
Comment on
Yeah.
the lips, forever on the hips. That's not
That's
in the
right.
Bible either, friends.
That's not the Bible. That's not what Jesus meant in his word. I just want to unpack that Psalm 86:11.
Yeah.
So I like to look at different translations. I think I said this last week. My go-to is the English Standard Version, but I like to see how things are translated just to help me better understand some of
Yeah.
it, not to take things out of context, but this is what it says: teach me more about you,
Mm.
how you work and how you move, so that I can walk onward in your truth until everything within me brings honor to your name.
Mhm.
So that I can walk in the
Yeah.
way that you're showing me, so that my actions, my words, my attitudes, everything honor who you are, Lord.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And so and I like how you said prayer changes everything. And I it's so beautifully true. And prayer does not change everything to what you want it to be.
No.
Pra-
And nor
Prayer
does it change
changes,
the situation.
no, it changes us.
Us. Yeah.
That's it. So when we say everything, the whole part of us, it changes us. It doesn't change what we
Yes.
see, changes us. It changes the person walking down the road, makes
That's
that
it.
person more confident, makes that person less prone to distraction from the right or the left. It makes that person more able to keep their foot straight to the path.
Yeah. And because it changes us and not the situation, it therefore, as Wayne Dyer was famous for saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Hmm.
So again, it's not that God is changing the circumstances,
Right.
because listen, it's his will, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that he's changing it to suit our needs, but how we see the situation. Perfect example. So we were at dinner the other night. My daughter lives with my sister. She rents out her basement. And a few years ago, my sister's house flooded, and all of the, because of a broken, or I don't know, remember, something with the pipes or the sump pump. I don't know. Anyway, her basement is no longer carpeted. It's cement. My daughter has a giant dog. Giant. She's huge. My grand dog. And she had an accident, like number two,
Oh,
right? And my sister said in that moment, in her gratitude journal, she wrote, "Thank you that I have cement floors in my basement." Now, it
right.
didn't change the situation.
Yeah.
It didn't change that the fact that she hasn't been able to carpet it or whatever
Yeah.
frustrates her. But in that moment, right, it doesn't change the situation, but her
Right.
perspective of it changed.
Yeah.
And that's just, a basic example that prayer changes everything, and that being diligent with our heart
Yes.
and really minding the master's wisdom is what allows us to ponder, to smooth out and make sure we're walking along that road,
Yes.
so that we it does change our perspective, and it changes how we follow his direction.
Yeah. So I want to close out with this Proverbs verse,
Yes.
which we won't be there until like 2023, but it's chapter 27 of Proverbs, verse number 19. This is like in your face, y'all. So
I'm
just
going.
be ready.
Do it.
As in water, face reflects face, so a man's heart reveals the man.
Mm,
Right? So basically, you look at your reflection in the water, you see yourself. A man's heart is revealed in his life,
yeah,
in who people see you to be.
that's it.
So, our hearts will never allow us, even though our hearts are exceedingly wicked, the Bible teaches us. Light, God's light, God is light, right? Can never coexist with darkness. And that is why darkness will always be revealed by the light.
Mm, mm.
So whatever is in our hearts, we can try to cover it up. We can try to be conniving. I've been conniving in my life. I'm not proud of that, but that's a
Yeah.
human thing, right? That's a fleshly thing. We can be conniving if we're not carefully, diligently guarding our hearts. And so all of those things, they're to your detriment, you know,
Mm.
they're to our detriment if we aren't guarding that, if we aren't defending and freeing our heart. The flow in and the flow out. I have crazy dogs coming in. They're like, it's time, mom, it's time. But one more thing. Can I plug something?
Yes, please. I was just going to say, you
Yeah.
had something you wanted to share.
Yeah. So over on Clubhouse, which is an audio chat app for those of you who have never heard of it. And right now I think it's just for iPhone users. But I do a room every Wednesday morning from 6 a.m. to 6:30 or 7, depends on how the conversation is going. It's been to 7, so 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, with a gentleman I met on Clubhouse who's in New York City, and so we do this Wednesday Wisdom every Wednesday from 6 to 7 there, and that's live, and you can come in and chat with us. So
Love
would
it.
love to have you guys check that out.
I'm going to put that in the comments for the
Awesome.
live stream today. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you everybody for joining or watching the playback. Hey, by the way, if you're watching the replay, would you give us a hashtag replay in the comments? And feel free to share on social media, so more people know to tune in and check out the Proverbial Masterminds.